Hey, honey.
Yes, Barry?
Let's get out of here.
Where are we going?
Where do we always go?
Este ritmo de palmas, sin naturaleza, hasta encontrar la playa. Por eso grito al mundo, yo soy de Puerto Vallarta. Samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar. Samba de Puerto Vallarta.
Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show, where today we're going to be talking about what to bring and what to expect when you arrive in Puerto Vallarta. I'm your host, Barry Kessler, and I'm just so happy to be introducing you to my favorite vacation destination. Maybe even one day it'll be yours if it's not already, and that's Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. That music you're listening to is performed by Alberto Perez, and Alberto is the owner of the La Palapa group of restaurants here in Puerto Vallarta. La Palapa and the El Dorado restaurants are right on the south side of town, down on the beach, and for those of you who are looking for a little romance under the stars, check out the El Dorado Romantic Dining Experience. Just imagine this. You follow a candlelit walkway to a private table right at the ocean's edge. You're surrounded by tiki torches. You're seated at a candlelit table right on the beach, toes in the sand, and you're enjoying a 5-course gourmet meal created especially for you, served with personalized attention for just the two of you. Your every wish is their command. Yeah, you can have that if you go to the El Dorado. And first, of course, you got to get to Puerto Vallarta. So today we're going to be discussing more about what to bring and what to expect when you get to the Puerto Vallarta airport. And we're going to be talking about transportation to your hotel. And if you missed last episode, we discussed some of the basics, like what to pack, and the very, very important issue of exchanging money. We talked about cell phones and data plans and so forth. So if you missed any of that, I would suggest that you give a listen, or at least go back and read the blog at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. That was very important information, so I suggest that you go back, if you haven't done it already, and do a little catching up. Now, in the old days, well, I guess it wasn't too long ago, you didn't need a passport to enter Mexico from the United States of America. But times have changed, and all you foreigners, you're going to need passports when you're visiting Mexico. So if you don't have yours, or if it isn't up to date, you best get that done before you decide to book a trip, okay? Now, the same thing applies to you people who are sailing in on cruise ships, too. Get your papers in order before you plan your trip. Then, we talked a little bit about last time the best time of year to come to Puerto Vallarta. And we talked about what to pack. So I'd like to bring a local expert, JR, in PV, you know him. We're going to have him come and give us a lesson on what are the best times to come to Puerto Vallarta, and what's it like during the times when tourists are in short supply. So JR, I would like to talk to you a little bit, if I could, about the best times to come to Puerto Vallarta. Now, you say on your website that travel agents sometimes don't do their clients a really good service, and they send them to Puerto Vallarta during the off-season, right? So tell us about the seasons and down there in the tropics, and what's the best time to come to Puerto Vallarta?
Well, anytime.
Okay.
No, I mean, the high season traditionally starts around November 15th and runs to April or a few weeks after Easter. You will probably not see one drop of rain, although we do occasionally around Christmas time have a little sprinkle. In fact, the locals have a name for that. It's called let me see if I pronounce this correctly, cabunuelas, which is like the Christmas rain. And I think we just had it last week or a couple of weeks ago. Things aren't going according to schedule as they used to. Anyhow, by mid-June, traditionally June 15th, the rains start. We have a rainy season in the tropics, and the rain is not a constant rain. It is a deluge that normally lasts about 2 hours. If you're ever here in one of those deluges, you will notice the reason for the high curbs downtown. Like downtown, we have basically 3 streets going north and south, and behind them is a big mountain. All that water falling up on the mountain's got to go somewhere, and it goes down, and it comes right through downtown. If the curbs weren't that high, the stores and bars, etc., would be inundated with water because it will go 2 feet in the street.
Wow. So those streets along the Malecon, they turn into rivers, huh?
Oh yes, definitely rivers. Not so much on the south side because it's flatter and further from the hills. But nevertheless, you'll get a few, several inches down there.
Wow. Okay, so this is during June, and how long does that carry on?
Traditionally to October 15th.
October 15th.
But of course, that's all gone. That's all gone by the way now because the climate has changed in the world, and so we can't rely on those dates anymore. I would like to point out, of course, that when it does rain, it's not cold. The rain is quite warm. In fact, when it rains, the kids go out in the street to play. I mean, they'll have plastic boats where they will sail down the street. They will stand under the rooftop drain spouts that are sticking out and pouring down, and they will literally stand right underneath that.
Yeah. Now, I think one of the neatest parts of Puerto Vallarta, speaking about the rain spouts and walking down the streets, is that it's especially in town. Many of the shops along the streets all have little overhangs, so you can actually hug close to a lot of the stores and keep out of the wet, even when it's pouring rain.
Yes, that's correct. That means actually I don't use an umbrella. The problem with some of the sidewalks, particularly in my area at least, is that they're quite narrow, and I have to share that space with utility poles, with metal boxes holding or protecting the electricity meters on the side of the buildings. Uh-huh. And then also, of course, the sidewalk is not dead flat. It goes up and down. So, in other words, you have to look where you're going. And if you've got an umbrella, the umbrella won't actually pass between the wall and the utility pole. So it's pretty well useless.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I definitely can understand what you're talking about there. All right, now I've never been there in June. Tell me about the heat.
You know, I love it when it rains because before it rains, it can be really sticky. I mean, the humidity builds up. I mean, that's what produces the rain eventually. And when it rains and then after it rains, the humidity drops quite a lot and also the temperature, and it's very pleasant after that. But, oh boy, before then, it can be hot and humid. I once lived in a little casita that had a what they call a laminar roof, which is like what you would call a corrugated roof.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's similar to living underneath a radiator.
Wow.
And I had ceiling fans, which weren't much use because they just blew the hot air down onto me. I remember one particular day when it was really unbearable and it didn't rain. where I had 7 showers in the day.
Oh boy. So
One at midnight.
all right. So June is tough.
Yeah. It's sticky. And, I mean, if you're in a hotel with AC, then fine. I personally don't like air conditioning. I don't think it's very healthy. I lived for 2 years in Calcutta, which can get much the same, if not worse. And walking into a club there with the AC was, where my whole sweaty shirt and pants and everything just froze on me. I don't think that's very healthy.
I imagine not. Wow. Okay. So now we all know what the on season is and what the off season is, but you say come anytime.
Yeah, because in the summer, if it gets unbearable, I mean, if you're a tourist in a hotel or a resort, well, just sit in the pool. I mean, even when it rains,
Yeah, exactly. So
actually, people get wet here. They don't, as I said, they don't use umbrellas very much. You get wet and you dry out, and it's rather pleasant to get cool.
yeah, it's a seaside town. Everybody should be getting wet over there.
Right.
All right. Well, very good. All right. Well, thank you for sharing with us. Once again, JR, you are the man, the go-to man right there in Puerto Vallarta, and we'll get together again real soon.
Okay. I hope it warms up. We're getting temperatures down in the mid to low 60s right now in the morning. And everybody is wearing quilted jackets.
Oh boy! I've never. Well, listen, I've been there in January where it has been kind of chilly, and I've actually had to put on a sweater. But really, jackets?
Oh yeah, the locals are in quilted jackets in the morning.
Oh, fantastic! All right. Well, all right. Enjoy your cool weather while you can, JR.
Oh, I don't enjoy it though.
That's why you live there. I know. Well, thank you again.
Okay, bye. See you later.
You got it. Bye-bye. Okay, well, thank you, JR. Thanks for that boots-on-the-ground experience and for all that info. Now, keep in mind that when you're down here, the ocean water is warm, and the weather is almost always humid here. You can really feel it when you get off the airplane. It really is humid here. So just remember that this kind of humid tropical nature, well, it attracts stuff like mosquitoes and other little bugs. Now, you can and you should bring some insect repellent with you. Now, we have our favorites that we all like, so bring them if you got them. But if you just forget to bring the bug spray, don't worry. You can buy it just about everywhere, from the pharmacies to even the little tiendas and stores. You can buy them at the local OXXOs, the OXXO stores that you find on almost every corner here. That's Mexico's version of our 7-Eleven franchise. And you can pretty much find insect repellent at any one of the big supermercados. Well, there's even a Walmart, there's Costco's. There's no shortage of really familiar-looking shopping venues to choose from here in Puerto Vallarta. So, with bug spray in mind, let's go right back to our favorite man on the beat, JR in Puerto Vallarta, and ask him, what kinds of bugs are we going to need to be worried about when we're in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, JR? So, JR, today I want to ask you something about the kind of bugs that are hanging around there. You've got Puerto Vallarta, obviously, is what you would definitely call the tropics. So naturally, you'd expect lots of mosquitoes and other kinds of bugs. What do you do to protect yourself against that kind of stuff?
Okay, well, I live in an area which has quite a lot of wild vegetation around it, so I probably get more bugs than you would if you were in the hotel zone, for instance, or even downtown. I doubt you'd see one. of course, the city sprays, and they also come round and inspect every household to make sure there's no standing water for the mosquito larvae to breed in. The hotels, of course, have their own spraying schedule as well. So I hear from tourists that they never saw a bug, but there are other things other than mosquitoes. The most prominent is the no-see-em, which is so small that you can't see them, well named. And they usually only bite at dawn and dusk, and usually down by close to some sort of standing water of some sort, quite often at the beach. They don't start itching until quite a bit later, usually the night following the morning bite. A lot of people mistake this and say they're bed bugs, but of course they're not, since they're only around their ankles, and that's kind of difficult to explain.
Well, now you say they spray. What do they come out? They come out with like a fogger, don't they?
Yeah, they have a pickup truck with a fogger on the back that drives around and fogs everything. They don't do this during the rainy season because it's ineffective then. But right after the rainy season, they will come by. They also send people round, usually ladies. I call them the dengue brigade, who come and give you little granules to put in any standing water that are live larvicide, which will kill the larva.
All right. You said dengue, and I've spoken with other friends of mine who have gotten dengue. Have you ever come down with dengue?
I had it once, but many years ago, maybe 20 years ago. But it wasn't very pleasant. It's very similar to the flu. You get aching joints. I believe it used to be called the breaking bone disease because of that.
Yeah.
The mosquito. There's only one mosquito that carries dengue, and that's the Egypti, and it only bites during the day, so you don't have to worry about it at night. I occasionally will burn a spiral, and they're called redalitos here, which will last all day under my desk. That pretty well takes care of them. If I go out in the jungle, then I use off, the locally produced off, which is very effective. Because out in the jungle, you also have black fly, which is really nasty. They take a little chunk out of you. They're pretty small, but you can see them. not like the no-see-ems.
Yeah, I've experienced the black fly, and so has my wife on occasion. And no, that is not a pleasant experience. So you say you use the local off. Is that what you said?
Yes, it used to be called Artun, and then it was bought out by off. But the stuff we get here appears to be made in Argentina. I'm not sure if the formula is different, but it does have DEET in it, and it seems to work quite well. I don't have any complaints.
What do you use? You use the aerosol, or is there some other? Is there a cream? What do they have there?
No, I use the cream. The aerosol, I think, is just a waste because most of it goes into the air. I just use the cream. It's quite easy, and I'm not wasting it.
So you would suggest then to people who are traveling in Puerto Vallarta to don a little bit of bug repellent. Would that be like all the time, or is it just like during the night and in the morning, or what would you suggest?
No, I mean, if they're in the resort or the hotel or just shopping around town, I don't think they have to wear anything. It's only if they're going into areas which has a lot of vegetation, because the male mosquito feeds off the vegetation. It's the female only that bites you for the blood.
Oh, that's just like in real life. That's fantastic. So All right, so that's very interesting. And of course, I agree with you totally. During the day, I've never had to worry about wearing any kind of repellent. Just when we go on trips in the jungle, and when we go to the beach, and when we go down to Mismaloya, those are the times when I usually put it on.
Exactly. I just did that hike from Boca to Las Animas, and I used off, and I didn't get one single bite.
We're going to have to talk about that hike, because that's a great hike. And I have to say, I was wearing off, and all of my family when we were taking the hike, and I would say we were about halfway through the hike, and a couple of Mexican nationals passed us, and they said, "Hey, we could smell you guys." So we knew someone was up ahead of us because we could smell you, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that stuff is pretty odoriferous. All right, John. Well, thank you very, very much for talking with us about bugs in Puerto Vallarta. We'll talk soon about some other stuff. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for sharing your lovely town with us.
Yeah, you're welcome. Hasta luego.
Okay. All right then. So now we're all packed. We know what to bring. We've got our passports. And remember, we're going to pack light, and we're going to think cool. And we're going to review again a little bit about the money and your cell phone and your internet needs in episode 2 if you haven't done that already, right? So now you've arrived at the airport. So now what happens next? So now that you get off the plane, you're going to follow the signage to the immigration line. You're going to go down this, going to go downstairs, basically. You're going to follow a little passageway. And depending on how many planes arrive at the same time, the longer the line is going to be, of course. So you're going to need that immigration card that I talked to you about earlier that the flight attendant had you fill out. You're going to have it entirely filled out, okay? Even on the bottom where you didn't notice that you needed to fill it out. But you're going to fill it out anyway, and you're going to have your passport, right? Now, it's at this point where the immigration person, after looking you up and down, checking your mug against the mug on the passport photo, maybe even asking a question or two, they'll stamp your passport. And then you're going to be waved on through another long hallway, I guess you would call it, to a place where there's going to be luggage carousels, and there'll be little money exchange windows. There's even a place there where you can buy cigarettes and booze, and if you brought your pet, there's a little check-in place there for Fido or Tigger or, whoever. And then after you collect your luggage, you're going to be asked to proceed to the customs lines. And that's going to be, a pretty good long-sized line, depending on how many people are there. And there's usually kind of a little backup, so be ready for that. And you'll work your way up to the front of the line. Now, if you didn't bring any luggage and didn't have to collect that from the carousel, well, you're going to be the first in line over there. So once again, if you travel light, that's going to be a plus for you guys, right? Okay, so you get over there to customs and you hand over your declaration card, and then you're going to be asked to press a button. Now, if you're lucky, and most people are, you're going to get a green light, and then you're going to proceed to the next part of your journey. Now, if you get a red light, you're going to be asked to proceed straight ahead to some tables where there's some custom agents, and they're going to ask you to open your bags for inspection. Now, I have, in the many, many times that I've been to Puerto Vallarta, and that's over 33 years now, I have never, ever been asked to open my bags, not once. So call me lucky, but that's been my personal experience. Now, this is the moment that you have all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. If you listened to all of my podcasts and you get absolutely no information from any of them, this is the part of the podcast that you must listen to. Now, after you escape the customs room, you're going to go through some glass sliding doors, and you're going to find yourself in a place that's nicknamed, in a most loving term of endearment, of course, it's nicknamed the Shark Tank. Now, you're going to be walking through this corridor where on either side there's counters, and there's very official-looking people. They're nicely dressed. Some of them are in uniforms. And they're going to be all trying to get your attention. They're going to be asking you if you need a taxi. They're going to say to you that they're going to arrange a taxi for you. And they're going to ask you where you're staying, and they're going to try to strike up a conversation with you. They're going to attempt to offer you things. Look, don't stop. Don't engage these people. They're attractive enough. They're smiling big white toothy smiles. They look so harmless. And they want to help me with my trip. They want to help me with a ride. Look, don't stop. They're there to sell you a timeshare. They're there to rob you of your greatest commodity, your time. Time is precious, folks. You can never get it back. And your vacation time, that should be sacred, right? Don't let these sharks rob you one single moment of your hard-earned vacation. So please, push through, smile, say no thank you. Tell them you already have a condo. Tell them that you're not interested and walk on by. You may be asking me why they let people in the airport that could ruin your vacation from the get-go. That's a good question. When I first came to Puerto Vallarta in the mid-'80s, everywhere you turned, there was someone, it was usually a young gringo, manning a booth along the Malecon, or gringa, by the way, manning a booth along the Malecon or along one of the streets in Old Town, and they were hounding everybody to take a timeshare tour. Sit for a presentation, man. Now, today there's fewer traps like that in town, but I'm going to tell you where they are, and I'm going to also tell you how to avoid them. But look, for some reason, the powers that be figured it'd be a great idea just to let timeshare folks right there in the airport. Now, I'm sure that these timeshare people have worked out a really great deal between the airport commission and themselves. So, look, just do yourself a favor and just say no. Now, I'm sure there's going to be those of you out there who's going to just walk right up to one of these guys who offers to get you a taxi or give you a ride and just forget everything that I just told you. All I can say is, I told you so. Now you're asking me, Barry, really, what can these people do to me that can be so bad? So, you're the curious type, huh? Are you willing to tempt fate? You don't believe me? Listen, this whole story reminds me of a story from way back on my honeymoon. Debbie and I had just gotten off the Star Ferry from Kowloon to Hong Kong Harbor. We got off the ferry and I told her, don't look at the rickshaw drivers. Don't look them in the eye, I warned her. I said, don't even give them the slightest hint that you're interested in a ride, okay? Well, what do you think she did when she got off the ferry, you guys? That's right. She looked at a rickshaw driver, and that's all she wrote, boys and girls. He rolled his cart right behind her, and he pushed her into the seat, and then he ran to the front. He grabbed the handles of that rickshaw, like the handles of a wheelbarrow, and he lifted up, making sure that the passenger, my new wife, was forced back by gravity back into her seat. And as she tried to stand up and protest, he'd lift the rickshaw handles up again, spilling her back into her seat again. She kept looking back at me, and I'm sure she was expecting a different reaction from me besides, well, me laughing my head off. I'd already resigned myself to the fact that I'd be paying this rickshaw driver for his services, so I figured I might as well just take some good pictures and have a laugh. Okay, so that episode cost me $5 and about 5 minutes of my time. not bad. But these guys, they want much, much more. Now, I've heard stories about people who were practically held from their hotel till they agreed on a timeshare presentation, and much worse. And by the way, if you have a timeshare horror story to tell, you send me your story. Just go to www.puertovallartatravelshow.com and click on the Contact Us page and send us your story. So, listen, go straight, don't stop in the Shark Tank. Instead, plow straight ahead forward into the exit lobby where you're going to see some booths where they're selling tickets for rides from the airport to your hotel or your condo or whatever. Now, this is probably going to be the most expensive taxi ride of the trip unless you hire someone to take you, to a faraway place or, somewhere special. Now, the airport taxis are regulated and the prices are fixed, so you pay in pesos and it's always the same price. And remember, if you don't have pesos, like we talked about earlier, you can pay with your own money, with your own currency. Just remember that you're going to not get very good exchange rates for your money when you're using your own currency. And once again, go back to episode number 2, where we talk about the best way to get the best rates and how to get pesos in your hand before you get to Puerto Vallarta, or once you arrive at the airport. So you tell the nice lady behind the window where you're headed, and she's going to charge you accordingly. Now, if there's 1 to 3 people in your group, you're most likely going to be taking a taxi. And if there's 4 or more passengers, you're going to be taking a van. Now, the person behind the window is not charging you per person for the taxi ride, but they're charging you for the taxi ride itself. So she's going to ask you what zone you're going to be going to. And I have a list. I'm going to have a list attached to this blog post. There's also a list over on JR's website at www.vallartainfo.com, and I will link that up as well. And anyway, the prices of the zones and what the hotels are and what the zones are, I also have attached as well. And that would be very long for me to basically describe to you, so I'm going to ask you to go to www.vallartainfo.com. Listen, I'll have a link over on my page at www.puertovallartatravelshow.com. Anyway, as of today, and we're talking about January of 2017, we and by the way, we just got an increase of up to 20% in fuel prices here in Mexico. So things might change in the next few weeks. But as of now, these are the rates from the airport to your hotel room. So if you're going to be staying in the Vallarta Marina area, your taxi is going to cost you 210 pesos, which is approximately $10, a little over $10 US. A van will cost you double that. It'll cost you $20 US, about 400 pesos. And if you're going to be going to the hotel zone or to downtown Puerto Vallarta, the taxi is going to cost you 226 pesos, or that would be approximately $11. Or a van will cost you 452 pesos, or approximately $22.50. And if you're going to be going to the south side of town, the taxi is 300 pesos, or $15, and the van is going to cost you 600 pesos, or $30. And these are all, I'm quoting in dollars, in US dollars. And then if you're going to go further south to Mismaloya or to any of the hotels that are past the south side of Old Town, it's going to cost you 360 pesos, which is going to be about $16 or so, $17. And if you're going to be taking a van, 705 pesos, or approximately $35. And if you're going to be going north to Nueva Vallarta, The taxi is going to cost you 300 pesos or 15 buckaroos. The van will cost you double that. It'll cost you about $30. And if you're going to be going to northern Nueva Vallarta, like the Decameron all-inclusive area there, that's going to cost you 360 pesos, which is, about $17, $18, I think. And then if you're going to be taking that van, it's going to be about $35. And if you're going to go all the way north to Punta de Mita, it's going to cost you 800 to 900 pesos to get up there, which basically translates to about $45, $40 to $45. So that's what your prices are right now as of January 2017. Now, you can also pre-book using private transfer companies, and there are a list of them, which I will list actually on my website for you as well. Now, remember that one of the reasons that the federal taxis are more expensive is because they are usually a nicer taxi. They usually have air conditioning, I should say, and they also have to pay a little bit more to have the license to be able to pick up at the airport. Also, they really aren't allowed to pick up a fare in town and bring them back to the airport, so they have to drive back to the airport empty. So those are some of the reasons why taxis are regulated that way out of town. If you're going to be taking a taxi back to the airport, it'll cost you maybe 200 pesos. It'll cost you almost half of what it costs you to go from the airport to wherever you're headed. Remember, though, that if they're going to be loading bags, you're going to want to tip them. I don't mean from the airport, because you don't have to tip them from the airport. But if you are, asking them to drive you to the airport and they're loading bags for you and unloading bags for you, just remember them. Treat them well. So it seems, wow, okay, once again, we've gone a little long here. Next week, we're going to be talking with JR about taking buses in Puerto Vallarta. So just join us and let us be your guides. Until then, remember that this is an interactive show, and, well, we depend on your questions and your suggestions about all things Puerto Vallarta. So if you can think of something that I should be talking about, well, please reach out to me by clicking on the link, Contact Us tab, actually, on www.puertovallartatravelshow.com, and send us your message. And if you'd like to purchase a copy of Alberto Perez's song, The Samba de Puerto Vallarta, or any one of the other fine tunes that he has there, well, you can click on his links page at www.puertovallartashow.com. And there you'll find a link to buy his music, as well as links to the Lapa Lapa group of restaurants. And speaking of websites, if you're considering booking any type of tour while you're in Puerto Vallarta, you must go to www.vallartainfo.com, that's JR's website, and reserve your tour through him right from his website. Remember, this is a value-for-value proposition. His experience and his on-the-ground knowledge of everything Puerto Vallarta in exchange for your making a purchase of a tour that, hey, he'd do it anyway. You're just doing it through him as a way of saying thank you. Thanks for being our guide, JR. Well, it costs you no more than if you were to use somebody else, so go ahead and do it, really. And when you do take one of those tours, email me about your experiences. Maybe you can come on board and share with others what you liked or what you didn't like about the tour. Again, contact me by clicking on the Contact Us tab and sending off a message. And one more favor, please. If you like this podcast, please take the time by subscribing to my podcast and give me a good review on iTunes if you would. It'd be so appreciated if you'd just take that extra time and do that for me. That way we can get the word out to more and more people about the magic of this place, Puerto Vallarta. So, thanks for listening all the way through this episode of the Puerto Vallarta Travel Show. My name is Barry Kessler, signing off with a wish for you to slow down, be kind, and live the Vallarta lifestyle. Nos vemos, amigos.
Ahora solo camino interno por la playa, me encuentro junto al río cuando todo está en calma. Pronto cae la noche, brillas Puerto Vallarta, samba de Puerto Vallarta, noche de arrullo en el mar, samba de Puerto Vallarta.